Syrian Arab army restores security to Aleppo and people return to their homes. A Mass in Mary's Church for Peace in Syria is led by Patriarch Yarmouk. The Prime Minister asserted that Syria continued its battle against terrorism and remain open and responsive to all initiatives to solve the crisis through dialogue. Information Minister Omran Zabi affirmed in a statement to journalists that there is an unprecedented escalating media campaign against Syria, as there is a lot of untrue news being published. As Zabi pointed out that we here in Syria are optimistic that Syria, the homeland and people, will overcome the crisis and will have victory over the foreign aggression against it. The Information Minister stressed the national dialogue is a dialogue between Syrians and those who believe in this dialogue. Those who believe that this is a way to fight a serious political operation, and those who refused the dialogue and called for using weapons, and they fear the dialogue's results. As Zabi pointed out, the Syrian Arab army is not a side in this confrontation. The Syrian army represents all the Syrian people and it is acting accordingly. Terrorism has one shape, as there is no positive terrorism and one negative one, nor acceptable and rejected terrorism. And anyone who commits an act of terrorism is a terrorist regardless of his nationality. As Zabi said that the rejection of foreign intervention is the minimum level of nationality and the maximum level is martyrdom. Nationality demands the rejection of all forms of foreign diktats and intervention. Thanks to our valiant armed forces, the people of the quarter Saif al-Dawla and Aleppo regained security and returned to their homes to continue their normal daily lives.
The Syrian Arab television toured the area of Saif al-Dawla, which the Syrian army purged from terrorists, and thus enabled families to return home. I pray to God to grant Syria victory against its enemies. We have suffered a great deal from the terrorists. We have been out of our homes for 5 months. May God protect the Syrian Arab army in its battle against the mercenary terrorists who stormed and plundered our homes. Those terrorists who claim to be fighting for freedom stole all our possessions.
I am very optimistic as I return home, thanks to the soldiers of the Syrian Arab army.
رفقاتي وبيتنا خرب من وراهم الله لا يوفقهم كل ما يسمى بالجيش الكرد مثل الدبين بزعج ونهايته قتل وتحت اسحاق الجيش العربي السوري وباذن الله بدنا نخلص منهم باذن الله مثل ما كلياتنا شايفين بعضنا وسوريا بدها ترجع امينه طول ما في مواطنين شريفين وطول ما في انسان شريف وطول ما في كل انسان وطني بيحب بلده.
جيش الحر حرامي بدنا جيش النظامي جيش الحر حرامي بدنا جيش النظام بلدنا خير اجوا هالحراميه هالولادين الحرام هالولادين الكلاب الله لا يوفقهم خربوا لنا بيتنا دمرونا الله يدمرهم الله يدهوجهم الله لا يوفقهم انطفش جيش الحر طفشنا من بيتنا جيش الحر ولادين حرام لو ما امهم كلبه بنت كلبه هيك بهنوا
ان شاء الله بموتوا كلياتهم خربوا بيوت العالم شردونا وان شاء الله هيك نشوف باهاليتهم هيك واولادهم هيك.
ليش طالعين اليوم؟ ليش طالعين؟
طالعين هون اليوم مشان ناشد الجيش العربي السوري الله يحمي لنا اياه ويخلي لنا اياه ويطرد الجيش ينظف الحلب كلها وسوريا كلها تنظف ينظف الرجسون النجس هذا كلياته.
Askerlerinin halkı zulmettiği söyleniyor. Türkiye'de öyle diyor. Öyle mi? Zulmeden kim?
في تركيا بيقولوا الجيش أسد بيظلمكم انتم بيهد بيكم هذه صح؟
لا غلط الجيش السوري اسعفني غلط المخربين ضربوني الجيش السوري اسعفني
beni kurtardı.
اسعفني واشتروني هاد وامنوني مصراتي الله محيي الجيش والله محيي الجيش والله يحمي الجيش
yaşatsın şeyi.
جيش العربي السوري
Suriye askeri beni kurtardı.
لك اردوغان
Beni öldürüyordu Suriye.
عفوا اردوغان من سنتين كان يجي على سوريا نحن هيك عمل له نحبه لأردوغان سوينا نحن حتى بقوسنا بقتلنا
Lahza Erdoğan diyor 2 yıl önce buraya gelirdi diyor. Biz de ona diyor sarılırdık, onu severdik. Nerede şimdi Erdoğan? Niye bunu yapıyor?
سوينا له نحن أمس كنا عم ناكل نشرب معه هلا صار شوية مصرات بلعوك شوية مصرات مشان حكمه مشان ايش؟ مشان شو عم يعمل ايش؟ حرام عليكم حرام نحن اسلام نحن اسلام نحن اسلام نذبح بعضنا
Çağrısı diye saldırıyor. Saldıranlar Müslüman mı?
طبعا في سؤال يعني بيقولوا هل بيقتلوا بيحاربوا هناك جيش الحر بيسموهم هن بيقولوا ان احنا مسلمين وجهاد فتحوا جهاد عن جد هدول مسلمين
كفر هذا من الاسلام انت من الاسلام هذا مو اسلام
Özgürlükleri, sıkıntıları var mıydı? Özgürlük sıkıntıları var mıydı?
كان بحلب من اول مريحين انتم كنتوا كان اي مشكله في حريتكم او في حياتكم كانوا يعني دولة كانت تأذيكم
ممتازة في أمان الساعة الصبح
الساعة 5
الصبح
ما حدا يستطيع
ما حدا يستطيع طاعون
لا عايشين بأمان لدرجة الحمد لله.
Hello everyone, welcome to GGN. Today is Wednesday, December 26, 2012. I'm Darko. Alright, I'm gonna continue here. New way. It says hundreds cross border after government intensifies bombardments in rebel-held areas of Hama province. Of course, this article is from Al Jazeera, so it's actually supporting the, quote, terrorists, is what they are. And what they do is they take these towns, all these people, when they make it bad enough for them, they have to basically leave. Then the government goes in there and they, quote, cleanse them, the terrorists, out of the town, and then they go back, like you saw in the videos. So very, very skewed information that's going on in Western media. Syrian refugees in Lebanon say Syria was a paradise and now a battleground. And the number of refugees fleeing Syria has almost reached 500,000. Around 160,000 have come to neighboring Lebanon, including Palestinians, Kurds, Sunnis, and Shiites. For many, peaceful coexistence with other groups was disrupted by bloody civil hostilities for which they failed to find reasons. It says Palestinians cannot live on a battlefield. They fled their home not far from the Palestinian Yarmouk camp in Damascus 4 months ago. As soon as the Free Syrian Army enters an area, the combat units follow and engage in action. There's no way we can live in the middle of a battlefield. Syria is headed towards a catastrophe. So this individual says it's in someone's interest to divide us. It started in Syria with Sunnis against Shiites and Alawites. It's less dangerous for the Christians and Druze people, while Shiites are facing certain death. He went on to say, I'm short of words to even call what we are having here today. It's some conspiracy against Syria. He says many of the militants, or they're calling rebels, are actually from Afghanistan, Pakistan, or Libya. Many are some heavy, bearded men who speak unfamiliar language, definitely not any known dialect of Arabic. They actually don't speak much at all. If you spot one of them in the area, it means action will break out soon. They said the Free Syrian Army actually took over their house, made holes in the walls. They took everything they could sell from my daughter's house, including the refrigerator, washing machine, and everything. Earlier in Syria, women were safe to walk in the street even in the middle of the night. That was freedom, and we don't have this anymore. So you'll see in some articles about how the Alawites, that basically which Assad represents, as a minority, and majority of them are Sunnis, the population. But for whatever it's worth, they were able to live in peace and harmony prior to these Western-backed terrorists and foreigners coming in the country. So they're not really representative of the Sunnis living in Syria. It says MP hails Syrian government for thwarting the Yarmouk plot, and Iranian lawmakers praised the government of Syria's president for defeating a Western plot to pit the Palestinian refugees in the Syrian-based Yarmouk camp against the Syrian government. With the return of stability and calm to the refugee camp, the West has lost a chance to play with the Palestinian refugees card. The anti-Syrian scenario designed by the West and the Zionist regime of Israel did not pay off thanks to the vigilance of the Syrian government. In the end, terrorists were forced to leave the camp and calmers returned. He noted that the West resorts to any method to reach its ominous objectives in Syria, including, quote, terrorists and their supporters were trying to get the Syrian army engaged in Yarmouk camp conflict and then hold Bashar al-Assad's government responsible for the act. And then after that, clashes erupt near the Palestinian refugee camp in the Syrian capital from the 26th. Fresh clashes broke out between the Syrian army and the foreign-backed militants outside the Palestinian refugee camp in Damascus. Rebels massacred civilians in the Hama province, says the Syrian army. They claim factions aimed at covering for losses in the region. In a statement released today on Syrian state media, the Syrian Army General Command claimed that rebel forces have attacked several towns in the Hama province in recent days and accused them of massacring civilians in some of them. They attributed the incidences to rebel losses in the area, claiming that the groups were desperate to make up for their losses by capturing the towns they had turned on the residents. In background here, though the province is majority Sunni and home to several rebel factions, Hama is also home to a number of Alawite and Christian villages and towns, and rebels have argued that many of those who will have to be conquered to prevent the populations are aiding the regime. Syrian rebels captured town and attacked air base. It says here they fully captured a northern town near the Turkish border on Tuesday after weeks of heavy fighting. They have already captured other large military bases in recent months. It says that they've also laid siege to the international airport in the city of Aleppo. With these gains, Assad's government is having increasingly difficulty sending supplies by land to Aleppo province. So I just watched a video on Saturday or Sunday, I believe it was, basically about the electrical facilities, utility companies in Syria that were being attacked by the rebel terrorists and how they were trying to get it back online. But just again, Syrian militants attacked thermal station in Hama, caused power cuts. The foreign-backed militants have attacked a thermal power station in Syria's Hama province, basically causing more power outages. Next up, we have Syria's chief of military police Defects and joins opposition, the latest high-profile defection, and they're set back to Assad's government. Goes on, it says the major general said he was joining the People's Revolution. That's interesting. Foreign people, I guess. Although it was unclear when and where the recording was made, so it may not even be real. Could just be more psychological operations, part of the Brookings Institute policy to basically squeeze and put pressure on Assad's government. But also, you have to remember that these guys are getting paid lots of money, like in the millions, to defect. So, Syrian Foreign Ministry Defector in D.C. is aiding the U.S. It says with reports that he had defected into Lebanon to stay in British embassy revealed as untrue. A credible report has now placed the former Syrian government spokesman in Washington, D.C., working for the Obama regime. Despite being a very high-profile figure as a spokesman, his policy role is seen as fairly limited and his knowledge of secret information unclear at best. The Syrian rebels say that Assad's troops just attacked them with poisonous gas. So, as soon as I saw this article come out, I knew it wasn't true. Especially when you have sources like Haaretz doing the reporting, but they're calling them activists. The activists say it's the same activists that were on YouTube putting a video where they're poisoning gas. Releasing poisonous gas on rabbits and killing them, and they were testing these chemical weapons that are supposedly in the government's control. But the U.S. of course is training them how to, quote, handle it. Either way, Israel, like the United States, doubts that the Syrian rebels or poison gas claims are even real. There's no real evidence for rebel allegations. There's no confirmation or proof for the allegation. And it probably didn't even come from them, like I said. This is coming from the same people that are opposing this and going to the United Nations and stuff like that to get some kind of resolve. The opposition has an interest in drawing international military intervention. Russian forces take Syrian chemical biological weapons under control. This is from the 22nd and it's from DEPCA file, so again, not sure how much truth there is in this article, but it says that the Syrian government has consolidated its chemical weapons in one or two locations amid the rebel terrorist onslaught, and they were under control for the time being, and Russia has military advisors training Syria's military and also keeping close watch over the chemical arsenal. Then you have Russian military presence in Syria poses challenge to U.S.-led intervention. I heard something about Russian troops there too, but I've heard that 100 times. Advisors deployed with surface-to-air missiles system to bolster President Assad's defenses and complicate the outcome of any future strikes. Syrian officials left for Moscow to discuss proposals to end the arrest. This is from the 26th. Recent talks in Syria, they say, were positive. In an AP article, Syria government says its forces are still strong. This, of course, is to counter the recent propaganda, especially the defection. Please join me in part 2. This is GGN. I'm Darko. Thank you.